Very good. Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me all right. Thank you, Martha. So I'm Tim. I'm a member of Al-Anon. We have addiction over here as well. It's not just over there. It's everywhere. I've been in Al-Anon, or rather my first Al-Anon meeting was in 1995. So I've been at this for some time. Good to see some people here. If there were more faces I can see on videos, it always helps to see the people you're talking to. I understand if people are cooking, it's a bit tricky, but lovely to see as many faces as possible. Thank you. So what I wanted to talk about, well, I'm not going to talk about all of those rotten drinkers. Um, had enough of them. I want to talk about the slogans. I'm a bit simple when it comes to Al-Anon, and I think I can go I've done the steps. I continue to use the steps, but the slogans are the absolute centre of, I was going to say my Al-Anon program, but really the Al-Anon program has become how I respond to everything automatically. It's really part of my bloodstream now. You couldn't really separate me from it. I'm not aware of doing it because it is simply the standard operating procedure. In some fellowships, they've got a specific area of their life they're looking at, and it might be food or it might be gambling. With me as an Al-Anon, it covers all of my relationships with all people at all times. It really has to cover everything because the problem covered everything. The problem was how I related to the world. The solution is how I relate to the world now. Now the slogans, there are the official slogans, then there are the unofficial slogans, then there are the slightly rude slogans, the ones that you're careful who you share with. Now the 8 that I want to look at are the 8 which are referred to in the book One Day at a Time in Al-Anon. I think it's wonderful that we've got 37,000 pieces of conference approved literature. Honestly, this is just between you and me. I like One Day at a Time in Al-Anon. That does it for me. I don't really need anything else. That's what I use. It's got all of the answers for me. You know what? There are readings in that book where that reading is all I need. 99% of it can be in a single line. And I every day write a little something on the Al-Anon reading, and then I say, well, what slogans apply to this? The ODAT reading. And it's almost always let it begin with me, let go and let God. Of course, my Al-Anonism is the opposite of that. It's let it begin with what everyone else is doing wrong, and don't let go, hold on, pay attention, look sharp. In the house I grew up in, there was the notion that the business that my parents ran depended on passing traffic and spotting the opportunity and saying, we'll do this today. And my mother was convinced if she looked out of the window staring at the traffic, it would change whether people stopped or not. That by sheer force of concentration and worry, she could improve our lives. And I was adult for quite a long time before I realised when a plane is taking off, for a long time I couldn't concentrate during the takeoff and just read my book because I thought, well, what if something happens? As though my paying attention, heaven forbid that I should be distracted by my book if something happens. If something happens, clearly it'll be me that has to come to the rescue. I'm not a pilot. Can I just point that out? In row 43D, I'm not going to be the person that saves the aircraft. Whereas now, I just go to sleep or I can read. I don't have to concentrate whilst the plane is taking off or landing anymore. Let go and let God. Let go of what? Many years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night, bolt upright, and I looked at my phone and there was a text message. And it was a text message from one of the alcoholics, one of them. And the text message said that they'd attempted to commit suicide and they told me how. And I thought, well, there is a little bit of a duty here, because if they're about to fall unconscious, then there might be cause to call an ambulance. So I called, he answered. I said, are you in grave danger? He said, no. I said, okay, well, look after yourself, speak to you some other time. And I put the phone down, I turned it off, and I went to sleep. And I went to sleep with no problem. I did what I needed to do, and then that was the end of it. If he lived, he lived. If he didn't, he didn't. It was his business, not mine. Letting go means letting go of the need to know what other people are doing, the need to know what other people are thinking, the need to check to see if they're okay 47 times a day, especially if they look slightly distant or are slightly quieter than usual. I don't need to do any of that. With people I sponsor, I used to phone up my own sponsor and say, well, I'm dealing with this, I'm finding this difficult, I'm finding that difficult. And the question came back, is the sponsee in the room right now? And I said, no. They said, why are you thinking about them then? Thinking about anyone who's not in the room right now is a sign that I need to let go. The resistance to letting go is the idea, if I'm left just with me, it's going to be dull and it's going to be frightening. The truth is, there's nothing hiding inside me that I need to be worried about. Why? Because I've done a step 4 and forgiven people for the things that they did to me. I've confessed everything in step 5. I have no secrets. I've made an effort, quite a substantial effort, to make amends to everyone I've ever harmed. There's no one on my list that I haven't done my utmost to make amends to. There are people I can't find, but I've done my utmost, and that's the end of it. Completing those elements of the programme, which wasn't instant, but completing those elements of the programme, there's nothing frightening inside. I don't need to run away into other people, because there's nothing fundamentally wrong. If I could never see anyone again, well, it would be a bit dull perhaps eventually, but I don't have this overwhelming sense that I'm in desperate need for human contact. There's a spiritual writer that says the cure for loneliness is contact with reality, being able to be perfectly present in what I'm doing. I don't have enough hours in the day for all of the things I'm interested in doing. And some of them are useful to others and others are not, apparently. I haven't got time to mess with other people's lives. One of the great traps that I can fall into as an Al-Anon is the belief that my help helps. An alcoholic acquaintance of mine told me a story. He was in AA. He told me a story about he got a call from someone who'd had a relapse, and the bloke said, can you come over and talk to me? And he went over and talked to him. It was 11 o'clock at night. He talked till 4 in the morning. He leaves the guy, goes home, sleeps for 2 hours, has a shower, and the phone rings. And it's the relapser. And he says, what can I do for you? And the relapser said, I thought you said you were going to come over. Fact is, he was blind drunk throughout the whole thing, and my friend hadn't realised. So all of the good helping was for nothing. And so much of what I thought of as good helping was simply keeping other people in their own distress, but not keeping them company in it, but not really helping them find God or achieve any kind of liberation. Of course, I've been helped a lot in Al-Anon, but some of the greatest help I've had is when people realised they could not help me anymore. I remember a sponsor saying to me, change or die, and put the phone down, because there was literally nothing he could say that he hadn't said 15, 100, 200 times before. When I'm left to my own devices, there is no one mopping my brow, holding my damp little hand, trying to fix it for me the way I've tried to fix it for other people. There is only one place left for me to go, and that's God. What do I do when I go to God? What does let God mean? It means, first of all, this is the little sequence. First of all, you see, I don't go to God straight away, first move. The first thing is to recognise I don't like how I feel. And I dislike how I feel so much. I'm potentially willing to look at a solution. I can't tell you how many dramas I've had in my life where I actually get excited that something has gone wrong because I would feel alive only when there was a drama. But eventually, see, my tolerance for pain is high, but it's not infinite. And at some point, I thought, I don't like how I feel, I'm done. The next little lesson I've learned is to say to myself, I hope there is a different way to look at this. Recognizing that if I'm right in my perception of the situation, I'm going to be stuck in this hell forever. To recognize my hope lies in being wrong. Sponsors have said to me, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? When I'm unhappy, it's axiomatic I'm not seeing it right. But I've got to see that myself. I don't like how I feel. I hope I've been wrong. I hope there is a different way to look at this. I want to look at this a different way. And what can I lose by asking? When I prepare that way, I can then go to God and say, right, I've got this problem here. It doesn't matter what the problem is, because I find the solution to everything is the same. I don't need a billion solutions. I need a system, a single system. And then that solves everything. But it solved everything for me. Whether it solves everything for you, well, that's a different matter. But anyway. So I think I've got a problem. And I say to God, you've got the problem now. I haven't got a problem anymore. It's over to you. That's what letting go and letting God means to me. I literally don't have the problem. It is now God's problem. Because it's God's problem, here's the best bit. I don't need to think about it again. So I post soldiers on the ramparts of the castle of my mind, who are excellent sharpshooters, and shoot down any thought about what had been my problem and is now God's problem. I am banned from thinking about it, and my job is only to spot when I start to think about it and say, no, this is not for me. You can't let go and let God and then grab the topic back again. God can only work on things if I keep myself out of the way. I would be a human shield preventing the military salvation of God on my mind. I would be preventing God from doing what God needs to do. Whatever the solution is, clearly I don't know, clearly it's left field, clearly it's something that will not appear to me to be the solution, or I'd know what the solution is. So whatever the solution turns to be is going to be a surprise. Even if the elements are familiar, the way they fit together is going to be a surprise. Now, this doesn't mean I'm absolved of any responsibility. What it means is my responsibility is to go to God once a day in the morning when I'm planning the day as part of my step 11 and say, by the way, God, you know that little problem that I passed to you. Is there anything you happen to need me to do today to help solve that? If there's a concrete action, I take it. If there isn't, then back up to God again. And it remains up there. I have a list of problems, of ex-problems, dead problems, problems which used to be problems, which are now God's business. And anything I conceive of as difficult, immediately it goes on that list and goes on the banned thinking list, the quarantine list. And it's amazing, as the weeks and months passed, I look and I realise I can cross items off that list because they have sorted themselves out. Almost nothing needs my strategic thinking. Strategic thinking goes completely out of the window at the programme because God is the master strategist. As a friend of mine says, God is of above average intelligence. When you give him a job to do, when you ask him to do something, he's perfectly capable of doing it without my interference. So letting go and letting God, I'm very fond of. Easy does it. Now, there's a little thing muttered under the breath after this. Easy does it, but do it. So sometimes there's that wonderful phrase, I think we get it from one of the other fellowships, progress, not perfection. But it's no good doing nothing and saying, but it's progress, not perfection. I've got to be doing things, but I must do the programme diligently and solidly, but not in a rush to get anywhere. And I was talking to a friend about this a while ago. It is better to spend a month looking at how all of the program principles apply to one specific, simple situation, to do proper, clear, coherent, cohesive, intelligent inventory on one situation and do it properly, and take 2 months to do it until you get it really right. Because that'll teach you the anatomy of your whole life problem. It is better to do that than to write 20 sketchy inventories on 20 different situations. Do one thing and do it properly. A 1,000 years ago, used to be a classical musician, and I went to music college and I thought I was something really rather special. I was an instrumentalist and I wasn't. And this eminent professor of my instrument, for the first 3 months, had me playing not the flashy pieces I was playing, but single notes, to learn how to attack a single note differently, and then putting 2 notes together, and my whole technique was reconstructed from the ground up. And I think this is what the Al-Anon program does. It reconstructs my perception of everything from the ground up. Now, easy does it doesn't mean I don't put a lot of time into it, but I'm in no rush to get it done with. I've noticed a very interesting phenomenon with sponsees, and I've done this with my sponsor, I'm sure, but I've noticed things a lot better when I see it in sponsees. Sponsee will do a bit of step work and I'll say, well, I don't think that really makes sense. I think you can be clearer about what is going on here. And they're frustrated because they want to go on to the next thing. They want the gold star and the tick and to go on to the next thing. Whereas what I've told them is, here is some progress you could make if you would like to make progress. So they're disappointed at the prospect that progress could be made, real progress. They want the box ticked. And I realised this was my approach with the programme. I wanted to be in Al-Anon for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I thought there was some status attached, and there isn't. So being happy to let understanding take as long as it takes doesn't mean I don't put the time in, but I'm not racing to get to the end of something. Live and let live is the third of the slogans in One Day at a Time in Al-Anon. Tradition 4, I think, is the tradition which goes with this terribly well. So each group does what it wants as long as it doesn't affect other groups or Al-Anon as a whole. So my notion of relationships, particularly family relationships, or particularly I live with someone, we've been together for a very long time. I've got my life, he's got his life. He doesn't have any opinions on my life. I don't have any opinions on his life. He doesn't intrude into my life. I don't intrude into his. I know which topics not to ask about. He knows. Oh, I suppose he knows what topics not to ask about. It's not because we're secretive. Secrecy and privacy are two very different things. But we have a common ground. And the common ground is one of courtesy and tolerance and consideration. We're both doing what we can to make life easy for the other person. To live and let live, the first part of that is hard because it means I've got to get my own life in order. I've got to get my diet in order, my sleep, my exercise, all of the other elements of physical care. I remember for years I didn't go to a dental hygienist because I thought, who has the time? I'm busy. Busy with what? With whose life was I busy if not mine? I've learned to keep things in order. My financial future is in order. My spending, my earning is in order. My occupation is in order. My home is in order. The kitchen cupboards are in order. I know everything that's in there and there is nothing superfluous. There's nothing like order, I've found, to enable a peaceful life. I'm not taken easily by surprise anymore. Order, and the other thing about living is to cut out absolutely everything which isn't first class. So there's no social media, and there's almost no media. There are a couple of media outlets which I look at for work reasons, but that's it. Because it's not good enough. There are too many important things. There are too many interesting things. First things first, the sacrosanct elements of my day. I'll tell you what they are. It's step 11 in the morning, step 11 towards the end of the day. I don't wait till last thing at night because my mind is not working properly then. At the end of the working day, when I'm about to pack up and go home, there is a review. What else? I do a meditation meeting every day as part of my step 11, and I'm there with 150 other people. And we do a meditation and we talk about things for 20 minutes. I do that. I get to bed very early. I get up very early. The phone is off at night because if they've got a crisis, I'm not the person that's going to help them at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're going to need a list of people who are up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not an emergency service anymore. Or as we say in England, blue light services. I'm not there waiting for the crisis to happen so that I can ride over the hill like the cavalry. I'm just not that important. So a good night's sleep, and I don't care who might think they need to talk to me at 2 o'clock in the morning. They really don't. If it's that urgent, they can go to an emergency room. Or there are helplines, there are other people in Al-Anon they can call who are up then. I'm really careful about my diet. I'm really careful about what I eat. And I find first things first is a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into having a tidy, orderly life without, I don't have really any stress in my life because, not because there aren't potentially stressful situations, but firstly because there's order, and secondly because of first things first. I don't take on more than I can handle and then worry for weeks about how I'm going to do it. I can say no a lot and without any compunction. What's interesting to me, I'll let you judge whether it's interesting to you. This question about saying no to things. Sometimes I would worry about saying no to work. If I was busy and then a lot more came in, if I say no, those agencies, they won't come back to me again. And whatever you do, it's wrong as far as the ego is concerned. You take work on and now you're overladen with it. You don't take it, and then if you have a fallow patch, you're worried, oh, is it because I kept saying no to things? No one's calling me now. But it's terribly easy. I'll tell you what you do. This is what I do. When a job offer comes in and I'm uncertain, uh, I step away from my desk and I say to God, shall I take this or not? The answer is yes or no, because I have to give them an answer straight away. And whatever answer seems more likely, I go with it. I don't interrogate it. I don't try to rationalize it. Just go with it. Either I trust God or I don't trust God. Pick one. I've decided that trusting God works, so that's what I do. One day at a time is the next slogan. And now the reason why I think this is splendid is because I remember once I was about 20. This was just before I came into Al-Anon, or a couple of years before I came into Al-Anon. I remember I was awake at 2 o'clock in the morning, as usual, and I felt as though I was pinned to the bed by two awful weights, this awful weight of the past and this awful weight of the future. And there was no present. The present was squeezed out by these two enormous, bulky intruders. There was no room for a present in my life. There was too much past and there was too much future. Now, funnily enough, dealing with the past and the future turned out to be the same exercise. I'd never gotten over anything. Ever. I'd only ever displaced the disagreeable event in my mind with a fresher, newer disagreeable event. But the old ones just stacked up and up and up. You know those hoarding programs? I was like one of those hoarders, except for disagreeable experiences. So by the time I got into Al-Anon, the house, I couldn't move in my mental, emotional house because it was full of disagreeable experiences. The whistle-stop tour of how I've processed those, actually it was relatively simple in the end. The first thing was recognizing that the reason anything had ever upset me was because I hadn't got my own way. And someone said the only way not to be upset is not to have a way. If I don't have a way, things can't not go it. I can only be upset if I've got a notion of how things should be. If I have no notion of how things should be, when whatever it is happens, I'm not upset, I'm not disturbed. There might be a flutter of emotion as the thing happens, but that passes through me like air. But it's events sticking in my craw. That was the problem. Something would not go my way, and then I would hold on to it, not realizing I was doing it. But to go back and realise the only reason I was unhappy was because I had a demand and expectation, which was either unrealistic or unreasonable. If it even if it was reasonable, it clearly was unrealistic, because if it was realistic, then it would have been fulfilled. The fact it wasn't fulfilled meant it was unrealistic. I had a friend a number of years ago who, at the time, I thought behaved very badly towards me. And did he behave unreasonably? He may well have done. Was it reasonable for me to have a demand? Well, maybe, but it was unrealistic. Why? Because he did behave the way he behaved. I was mistaken about his personality, his nature. That was the thing which had dethroned me. That is the thing which had caused the problem. If I'd had my eyes open, I wouldn't have been upset when he behaved the way he did. And the next thing is to realise that whenever people are behaving badly, it's just like when I'm behaving badly. I'm on a jag. I'm on a spree. The alcoholics, they talk about sprees. I'm on a spree where all I can see is me and my concerns and how everything is affecting me, and I'm all entangled up with other people, so their fate appears to affect mine in 1,000 tangible, palpable ways that go all the way through out the other side. My grandfather was shot on the Somme, and the bullet went through and out the other side. People's bullets all went through me, injuring, harpooning every single organ on the way. In that condition, how am I supposed to think straight? How am I supposed to be genuinely considerate of others when what I'm thinking about is me and my emotions? And other people are like that too. Whether or not they need recovery or in recovery, people are people. And this is the basis for the compassion that I developed. So pity, patience, and tolerance are a great little trio. Pity, to look at other people's lives, to look at them as if from the inside and say, whew, I wouldn't want to swap with them. And that's the pity. The patience is recognizing that the way other people behave sometimes is very inconvenient. It's a real nuisance. And that's where patience is required. Things are not going to turn out how I'd expected. Fine. Tolerance, leave them be, because it's not as though you're going to be able to change them. Like the story earlier on, the alcoholic friend who thought he was doing good helping and the chap was in blackout. All the people in my life who'd been nodding sagely when I was trying to help them were... I don't think many were in blackout with alcohol, but there are different types of blackout. Same way that I was in emotional blackout when people tried to help me. I couldn't hear a damn word. When I learnt how to let go of the things of the past, I stopped fearing things of the future, because I thought, if things happen, I know how to deal with things now. I know how to get over things now. I know how to not let things bother me in the first place. I've got sharpshooters on the ramparts ready to shoot down the negative, destructive thoughts. There's the pain of something happening, then there's the superstructure of judgment I would build on top. That's the optional bit. That's the bit that causes the misery. There's nothing wrong with emotions. If you listen to Carl Nielsen's, I think it's his Fifth Symphony, there's a snare drum that goes kind of wild in the last, I think it's the last movement, which the rhythm is all off compared to the rest of the orchestra. There's nothing wrong with the snare drum. It has a place in the orchestra. But if all you can hear is a snare drum, there's a problem. There's nothing wrong with the full range of human emotions I've had all my life. The problem was that certain ones, like a doorbell, you know when you press a doorbell and you remove your finger, but the bell keeps ringing and ringing and ringing and that was what pain was like for me. Something would hurt. I thought, oh, great, I've got this forever now. Getting over the past enabled me to get over the future before it happened. And that is a very long way round of explaining how I'm able to live one day at a time. Because there's nothing frightening to me about the future anymore. But the other element of one day at a time is this. When I'm doing the planning for the day in the morning, I make sure I keep a bit of an eye on apart from just the day, a tiny eye on the week, the month, the 6 month, the year, the 5 years, just to check that anything I know needs to happen in the future is scheduled in. Then I can forget it. It's because it's written down, I can forget it, and then genuinely live in the day and trust that if I've forgotten something, God will remind me. If it's important, God will remind me. So I don't need to keep anything up in my mind. I plan in the morning and then just one quiet task after another. Keep it simple. The way out of any emotional problem I've ever had, and I don't think there's an exception to this, is getting distance from it, and then you can see it for what it is. I haven't, I mean, I was very ill when I got into Al-Anon. Al-Anonism is really very bad. When you've got it bad, it's really bad. And it can be accompanied by all sorts of other mental conditions, as it was in my case. I don't know what why I was so unhappy as a child and a teenager. I couldn't give you a good understanding of that. What I do know is that I got busy with living my life rather than other people's. I got busy living in the present rather than the past and the future. And I look back and I don't know how it was all fixed. So I don't need to figure anything out. My job in inventory is simply to take pictures, as it were, of what I see and record it and then tell it. But there's no analysis there. What did I believe? The three things I can change are beliefs, thinking, and behaviour. Nothing else. I can't change the past, I can't change the future, I can't change the truth, I can't change you, I can't change my genetic makeup, I can't change a gazillion things, but I can change my beliefs, my thinking, and my behaviour. When I'm doing inventory, all I need to do is catalogue in a particular situation I'm inventorying or a particular domain of my life. I simply need to catalogue what are my beliefs, what sorts of thoughts do I have, what have I done. That is it. And then over to you, God, or you tell it to someone else. And God preserve me from people giving me feedback. It's one of the most poisonous words in the English language, feedback. If I can't see it straight away, there's no telling me. So don't bother. I'll see it when I see it. My job, you try and make a flower grow quicker, you can't. You try and get the bloom to open quicker, you can't. So I leave myself be. That's keeping it simple. Do the inventory, share it with someone else, give it to God, and then that's the end of it. Let the change take place itself. What happens over the days, the weeks, and the months that follow is I go, that's how I should look at things. I've never worked anything out. I've been shown things. The next slogan, couple more and then I'm done. Think. What does that mean? My instinct when I've got a problem is to immediately phone someone and start talking. And as soon as I'm talking, I'm not thinking. But rather than thinking just on my own, imagine a room where there are no windows, but there are two telephones. And you need to find out what's going on out there. And you have to pick up the first telephone or the second telephone. The first telephone is to the ego. The second telephone is to God. If I don't call God, it's going to be the ego. One has to make the call to find out what is going on. My interpretation or perception of what is going on is guided either by the ego, the self, or it's guided by God. So before I dare think about anything, I've got to put myself on the God telephone line first, and then I don't even need to work out what to think. I say to God, you tell me what to think about this. And either something comes or it doesn't. The thing I get usually told is mind your own business, get on with something useful. And that can keep me going for another 6 hours. And lastly, listen and learn. Listening to other people is good. Listening to silence is even better. Having enough space in my life that I can simply let thoughts come to me. And if I'm in the right space of mind, I'm pretty confident they're coming from God. How do I know? First of all, they're quiet. They're not shouty. They seem to give me a lot more room to breathe and move around in. And they point the way to obvious, simple solutions. The solution to any practical problem in my life is almost invariably let go, stop thinking about it, get on with something useful, listen to some nice music, light a candle, make something nice for dinner, read a short story by Chekhov, something which has not got anything to do with the problem. And then, I've been in recovery for over 30 years now. I can't think of a problem I've had over the last 30 years that hasn't sorted itself out eventually. The ones that took time were the ones I was trying to solve. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the 8 slogans from One Day at a Time in Al-Anon. Really good to be here and happy holidays, as you Americans will say.